Okay, guys, got a little bit more coffee, ate a little dinner, watered some plants. I'm gonna have my lovely dessert of 80 calorie 80 calorie yogurt, tiramisu flavored. So I'm gonna eat and talk. The sun is starting to set. It's nighttime. I'm hungry. Doobie-doo. Do you want to say something? Come here. I know there's no room, is there? Alright, come here. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Oh. You want to help teach? Hi. We have a co-professor this evening, right? Doobie-doo. She is awake from her nap. She's been working cattle on the barn all day. Just saying. Someone is apparently needing some attention. How is my laptop? Is it full? Alright, I'll tell you what, Rue. We will unplug that so you can get down if you want to. Damon? Really? Nope, that's not gonna work. Alright, go ahead and get down, babe. Get up. Off the couch. Honey, off the couch. Down. You can fit. Bristol, let her by. I'm telling you guys. Oh, okay. Alright, that's much better. Bristol, let her by. Where you can go. Honey, I have to teach. Can we love later? I have to teach. Alright. See, again, real time. Do not pull that cord off, please. Hello. Okay, we'll do this both. Damon? No. Dogs are awake. Dogs are awake. Alright, anyway. So, let's back up with Damon? What did I say? Dogs chasing the cats. Dogs are excited. Good times. Alright. I live in a zoo. I'm just saying. Alright, so let's pick back up with the Cherokee. So, as the dogs wrestle, do not knock off my laptop, please. Okay, anyway. So, Jackson has finally gotten the presidency. What he was after the whole time. He is known for interesting things like the spoil system, the Peggy Eaton scandal, his version of democracy, which people deemed as great back then. Today we can see the flaws with it. Not for everyone, right? Just saying. But what caused impeachment to become a reality was, in fact, an issue regarding the Cherokee. So, during the early 1800s, there were again, the goal was to either kill off all the Native Americans and or work alongside of them / with them, get them to civilize to our way of life, cultivate into our country, our economy. Exactly. Become American, right? So there are a lot of tribes who are still rebelling. A lot of tribes are still trying to hold on to their land. A lot of tribes are still not willing to give up. And God bless them for that, by the way. But you do have five. You do have five tribes which have become known as the civilized tribes. You have the Creeks, the Choctaws, the Chippewas, the Seminoles, and the Cherokee. Who, with their agreements of converting, and basically becoming as American as humanly possible, but we'll talk here in a second about some of the things that they did. Hey, Betty. Talk about, can you say hi? Do you want to say hi? Jamie, can you say hi? No. Can you say hi? No. Okay. See, why not? Teaching from home. Might as well make it fun, right? Say hi. Baby, say hi. Say hi. Okay. Time to be serious. Otherwise, I'm tired. I'm sorry. I have just worked a 13-hour day. I got some food in me. I'm tired. Anywho, where was I? Civilized tribes. So, civilized tribes have basically converted almost completely to full American way of life. They have dog toy. They have created a constitution that basically mirrors ours. They have given up all the religions of their pagan god, their tribes, their pagan gods, their cultures, the religion essential to their tribe's way of life. Nope, they've all converted to Christianity because it is the religion of our country. They have built schools in which they still teach their own history, right? The heritage of their tribes, but they also teach American history, how this country got founded. They practice American agriculture. They quit growing the crops that grow best in their areas or are essential to their economy / way of life. A lot of them are growing cotton. Hi. And a lot of them have even converted and have slaves because Americans have slaves. Every possible thing you can think of, they are doing to show they have become as American as humanly possible. And in return, in exchange, they have been given their land legally by the United States. As in, however much land, hundreds to thousands of acres of land, legally signed up by their tribal government and the United States government, giving them that land. So nobody, no Americans, no other tribes, not anyone has the right to take it from them. It is theirs. They went out, they bought their own ranch, they signed the paperwork, it is official, legal, no one can touch it. And it's been this way for a good while. Until eating and teaching. It's been that way for a good while until the presidency of Andrew Jackson. And something starts off that kicks this whole thing in motion, right? Everything has been going fine until gold was discovered on Cherokee land. And when gold is discovered on Cherokee land, all bets are off. Everyone goes ape blank crazy. Next thing you know, Americans are just pouring onto Cherokee land. In Georgia, by the way. Gold was found in Georgia on Cherokee land. People are pouring from across the country to Georgia to obviously pan and discover and find this gold and take it for themselves. Guys, it would really be like you buy your own ranch, you have your own land, you have to own the mineral rights to it, as well, of course. And let's just say after you buy it, it's discovered that there's millions and millions and millions of millions and millions and millions of dollars of oil discovered on your property, on your land. Well, you own the land, you own the mineral rights, you own everything, and it's yours. Drug of the law, congratulations. Drug of the law. Luck of the draw. I'm tired, people. I've been up since 4. I'm sorry. It's 8:30? No, 8:15. Anyway, sun is setting. I'm teaching. Ruby. Guys. So, you own your own ranch. You own the mineral rights. You own all of that. Gold is found. What if you looked out your kitchen window and discovered, Ruby, it's enough. And you discovered people put up oil derricks. They're wildcatting all over your land. People have put up oil derricks, and there's all these people who are out there bringing up this oil for themselves. Would you be okay with that? I'm thinking not so much. Neither are the freaking Cherokee, right? They have an absolutely huge problem with people coming onto their legally owned land and taking what is theirs. Not only that, once Americans move on to it, they're trying to run the Cherokee off of it. That's the power cord. Well, there are two Christian, because again, the Cherokee have converted to Christianity. That doesn't mean they understand the Bible. There are two Christian missionaries living inside Cherokee land in Georgia, teaching them about the religion, right? So when all these people, these Americans, start to move onto their land, they will go to these Christian missionaries and ask them for their guidance. How? Because normally Americans move on to Indian land. Indians do what? They attack, right? They defend their land. They run us off. They attack. They kill. They pillage. I'm sure the Cherokees probably wanted to internally, but again, they have agreed to become as American as possible. So they go to these two Christian missionaries and ask them for guidance on what should they do if this happened to anybody else in America. If this happened to other Americans, what would be the proper channels to go through? And again, the goal is the same. Where are you going? The goal is the same. The judicial system. So they're advised to go to the federal courts in Georgia. To which they do, and the federal courts in Georgia immediately agree on the side of the Cherokee and say, you're absolutely right. You guys are the victims here. You're being victimized. You know, everyone else is, you are in the right. Everyone else is in the wrong. This will go to court. And we'll take this, Damon, we'll take this trial and we'll go to court. But if anybody has ever had anything legally, Damon, come across them, you know, nothing legally happens quickly. It can be little stuff, can probably sure take weeks to months. If it's a major federal case, it can take months to a year, maybe 2 months to years more adequate today. But it's not quick. So the Cherokee are sitting there waiting for news from the federal courts of how this is going to legally proceed. That makes you sit there and basically twiddle their thumbs as they wait, as every single day, more and more Americans are moving onto their land and taking their gold. So this whole concept, as this goes on, as more Americans go down, as this gains more spotlight and attention, this will become national news. It'll be in newspapers across the country. Everyone will have heard, we hear what's going on in Georgia. Just bad things. Bad things are transpiring. And Damon. Good Lord. And when this reaches the ears, and people in government and politics are starting to talk about it, and it's reached the ears, it'll finally reach the ears of Andrew Jackson. Right? If something this illegal was happening in our country today and the president didn't act on behalf of those being victimized, how would that look? Considering it's the Cherokee, it's the Americans, Jackson already has this really awful perceived image of the Cherokee. Not just Cherokee, Native Americans altogether. Way before he joined the army and fought in the War of 1812, fought down in the South, he was already a part of the military. He had fought in the Creek Wars against the Indians, which the goal of the Creek Wars were to kill off and or run off as many Indians as possible, taking their land. So he already had this hatred for them. He was already fought against them. But on top of that, he had this belief, untrue, ridiculous, biased, crazy belief, that Native Americans as a race, as a group of people, were so unintelligent, animalistic, primitive to a point, that they were, as a people group, on the path of extinction. They were so antiquated that they were never going to figure out how to survive as the rest of us continued to intelligently move forward and grow and thrive like the prehistoric animals before them. They were just not going to be able to keep up and make it, and they were going to die off and become extinct. So, if the Indians are already on the path to extinction, what is this harm in killing off and ruining as many of them as possible? He holds that mentality. He holds that belief. As ridiculous and stupid, as petty and idiotic as that sounds, it's a true story. So, that's what he already thinks. So when news of what's happening in Georgia on Indian land comes to his attention, he's like, nah, let it. He doesn't say that publicly, but that's the persona. I mean, considering his actions and how little he does to aid those who are being victimized, who are, to protect those who are in the right here. He basically kind of sides with the Americans moving onto their land and tells Cherokee, if I were you, I would just give up and get off. Right? And again, much more eloquently, much more in depth than that. But you get the point. There's no backing what's right. There's no backing the judicial side of this. There's no backing the Native Americans. He's basically going to say, hey, if I were you, I would just give up and move. And they were like, we go back to the same question we've hit time and time before. Can he do that? As President of the United States, can he do that? Yeah, he can actually. He can do anything he does so wish, unless somebody stops him. People are talking about his actions immediately in churches, again, around dinner tables, in every avenue. Hey, Ruby, back off. Leave her alone. Poor Saddletons. Poor Saddletons. Is that dog being mean to you? I need a yard. I'm just saying. Anywho. I don't remember where I was now. Y'all distracted me. On top of that, so not only does he hold this mentality, and again, we've never had a presidency so bluntly spit in the face of those being wronged. Ooh, it's getting really pretty out my window. Getting the lights coming in. Getting wronged, in this country. But on top of that, he goes on to do something even more drastic. He creates the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which basically, I'm trying to bring up my description. It gave Jackson the authority to confiscate Indian lands within the borders of the existing United States. Per se, he could take any Indian land he wanted if he felt justifiable in doing so. So since, long story short, there was gold in Georgia, due to the fact this land would benefit the United States, Jackson now has the authority just to take it just because. Confiscate it, kick them off, take it for himself. Or for the United States, you get the point. But take it from the Indians, just because. Just because it would benefit the United States having it instead of them. But here's again, if I were to ask you in class, we would go through this channel, so we're not, shockingly. Although your classroom looks like my apartment. When a president creates a bill, a law, can he just write it himself and sign it into law himself and act on it and tell Congress, hey, this is what's up, this is what I've done, and this is what's going on? No. The president comes up with a bill. Kind of like this Trump bill that just got passed. He comes up with an idea, he comes up with a bill. It has to go to Congress to pass. They have to vote and give it the thumbs up for it to come back to him as approved, signs it into law, he can act on it. Separate but equal branches. Everyone in our government on with these responsibilities has a say. Do you think the government would sign off on the Indian Removal Act of 1830? If you do, I'm worried for you. No, because this is not really justifiable. This is more selfish, and there's no real justifiable reasoning to take it from the Native Americans. Again, there's Weatherford or Granbury couldn't come take your ranch from you just because oil was found on it. That's not the way the laws of this country work. Some people just get lucky. Right? Jackson knows they won't sign this. They're going to read this and say, this is horse hockey. There's no way they're going to give it the thumbs up. They're going to veto it. They're going to tear it apart from the get-go. So, Jackson's just not going to tell them about it. Jackson is going to write it. Never send it to Congress. They're going to have no knowledge until he's acting on it. He's going to write it, sign it into law himself, and put it into motion before Congress even knows of its existence. Guys, that breaks apart the freaking fundamentals of what makes our government operate successfully and work. A president can not legally do that. Or he's not supposed to, he's not supposed to be able to legally do that. So again, the question deems, can he do that? Yeah, until somebody stops him. But again, we've never had a president spit so bluntly in the laws of our country, literally in the face of our country. Nobody knows quite what to do, but the word impeachment starts to circulate. And long story short, this will go down the proper channels, and this whole concept, the United States / Jackson versus Georgia, and the Cherokee, goes down all the way to the Supreme Court, and goes before the Supreme Court in 2 different court cases. The Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, which is the primary one. And again, whether Jackson had the right to act on it and do what he'd been doing, and if it should be allowed and legal, and etc., etc., to which the Supreme Court takes very little time and saying, hell to the freaking no. This man is freaking insane if he thinks this is going to work. There's no way in hell this is justifiable. The Supreme Court easily rules in favor of the Indians, of the Cherokee. Tells Jackson, back off. All Americans, get off their land. This is a done, blanking deal. This is, theirs and theirs alone. Jackson, leave them alone. Everyone get off. And basically, they promise to protect the Cherokee and ensure they get to keep their land, and everyone will move off of it as long as the Cherokee promised not to sue Georgia, which I thought was funny. So it's Cherokee are like, we just be left alone. We just want our land back. Just Can we have that, please? So they instantly, well, pretty close. There's some, obviously, it takes a little bit of time. But very quickly, they rule in favor of the Cherokee, tell Jackson to back off. And it's like when you get caught doing something wrong and you get scolded and reprimanded, kind of hang your head and you're very remorseful at the time. And then there's a second, which he does. He's like, yes, sir, I'm sorry. But then there's a second Supreme Court case called, where's my name? Worcester versus Georgia. Because Eliza Butler and Samuel Worcester were the names of the two Christian missionaries living in Georgia that had educated and pushed the Cherokee to go to the judicial system, go that federal way. Well, since the Christian missionaries had gotten into this thing on the side of the Cherokee, Jackson says, you're with them, you're against us, we see them you as traitorous, and Jackson had them thrown in jail for aiding the Cherokee. So they've been sitting in jail this whole time, and the Supreme Court hears of this case, and they're like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Miss Jackson should look at him and been like, oh, so much, let me tell you. But what is wrong with you? He tells them to release these two missionaries and to leave them alone. So, I mean, everything goes in the Supreme Court does their job. They rule how they should. This should be done. This should be over. Done deal. And at the time, Jackson agrees. Obviously, he promises to abide by the decisions of the Supreme Court. He gets back inside the Oval Office and says, screw that. I'm going to do what I want, when I want, how I want. And doesn't follow or abide by any of it. Continues to push for the Cherokee to give up their land. Continues to push for the gold to be brought to the United States. Continues to poke and prod at these Christian missionaries. This absolutely does exactly what the Supreme Court told him not to do. Can a president, class, I would ask you, can a president on his own overturn a Supreme Court decision? My cat and my dog are nose to nose. I'm waiting for the volcano to erupt. Absolutely. I'm tired. Absolutely not. Now, Congress, the House, Senate, the legislative branch, and the executive branch together can, if everybody's on board, in 3 separate but equal powers. So it would take both the executive and legislative branch to decide and agree together to overrule a Supreme Court decision for it to happen. The president doesn't even have a shred of enough power to overturn it on his own. Well, Jackson acts like he does. Jackson absolutely gets back in the Oval Office and says, screw that, I'm not doing any of that. Continues to send more military force to Georgia. Continues to do more and more to take the land from the Cherokee and to harvest his gold as our own. Now, he does try to put a band-aid on the situation by telling the Cherokee, yeah, look, we're going to take your Georgia land. It's going to happen. However, there's this lovely tract of land apparently up in Mississippi that we know there is no gold on. And we are so more than happy to move you up there, and we're going to legally give you all that land that basically gold, silver, nickel, money-wise, we know is worthless. We're going to give you the land of Mississippi. Y'all can go live up there. And, that way, so you can still have a home, you can still have your land. We're just going to ask you to move to a new location, and we're going to continue to take Georgia. And a lot of the Cherokee, about 60, 70% of those, probably more than that, about 80% of them will take the deal. They just give up. They're just going to give up. Because they start to see and regard Jackson as a tyrant who has little, if no, regard for his own country. And the laws and the backbone of his own country. Like, if the if the legislative branch can't stop him, if the judicial branch can't stop him, if the legislative and judicial branch together can't stop him, who will? They just give up. Love and give up and take it. But you always have that heart, right? You always have that heart of rebellion, who are not going to give up until the fat lady sings because they believe they're right. So you have about 12,000 Cherokee who are going to hold out in hopes that hopefully this will turn around. They can hold on to what is theirs, Georgia. But Jackson will send more and more military strike down. And long story, I mean, they will become enslaved. This military will enslave them on their own land, force them to work for the military. I mean, they'll be literally pushed into labor on their own land until they agree to give up. And they too eventually will give up. They'll say, okay, you know what? We give up. You win. We'll go to Mississippi too. But by that point, this last heart of the rebellion becomes such a thorn in Jackson's side. He says, no. You had your chance to go to Mississippi. I got somewhere else in mind for you. That offer is over. It's done. And it is this 12,000 remaining Cherokee who finally just break and give up, who will be overseen and militarily moved from Georgia, to Oklahoma. And it's these 12,000 Cherokee who will be known as the Cherokee that partook to them, it's called the path. They refer to it as the path where they cried. But this 12,000 Cherokee went on the path, partook on the path where they cried. We know it better as the Trail of Tears. 12,000 Cherokee left Georgia. 8,000 will arrive in Oklahoma, where they will be moved and forced to live on a new reservation. And it's from this point on that all Indian tribes will either be killed off or the goal is to forcefully move them to a reservation. The 5 civilized tribes, the Creek, Seminole, Choctaws, Chickasaws, Cherokee. Those names might sound familiar, especially if you've been to Oklahoma. There are still counties in Oklahoma named after them, because Oklahoma is where the 5 civilized tribes. Hello, me still. Thank you. The 5 civilized tribes were moved to for the first time and lived on reservations. The descendants of those people still live there. So the Trail of Tears, 12,000 left, 8,000 made it to Oklahoma. 4,000 of them died along the way from dehydration, unsanitary conditions, just the horrific trek itself, military brutality, just awful. And the whole Cherokee situation was the big reason impeachment became a reality for Andrew Jackson. Nobody quite knew how to go about it. Nobody really quite knew how to act on it. We really didn't have our feet wet on the concept because, yes, we had written it into the Constitution. It was there if need be. But never in a million years did we think this early on in our country's history, and we had hoped that never would it ever be needed, to be active, to use in our country's history. But with Andrew Jackson, unfortunately, it did. And the whole Cherokee situation is what causes him to be seen, impeachment. Impeachment becomes a reality. And this makes him seen as one of the worst of all time. But he's also seen as one of the best of all time. And this is where it gets really sticky. It gets really into this huge collective melting pot. Again, his presidency can be considered the 50 Shades of Grey, because this Cherokee situation is just a horrible thing, right? But if you can take the emotional aspects out, if you can take this Cherokee, this one incident, as big and awful as it was, put it over here. Put it to the side. And you look at the rest of his presidency, oh my God, he's really been good. Known for the mistakes in the beginning. Every president makes mistakes. Jackson just became kind of famous for his. But overall, this president who easily has the least political experience than anybody who's come before him, and many that come after him, has been phenomenal. Our country is running better under him than it did John Quincy Adams. It is absolutely just paying butt to your names. International relations are good. The economy is good. Unemployment is at the lowest it's been in our country. If you take the Cherokee situation out and shove it over here for a minute, Jackson's first term has been phenomenal. He's figured it out. He's done greatly. But on top of that, can I help you? On top of that, Jackson is the only president, do you know, in American history to do what? That's right, he is the only president to pay off the national debt of this country. Andrew Jackson paid off the national debt in 6 years of this country. And for over a year of his second term, all this country did is make money. Something that China has done for how long now? Jackson figured it out, y'all. In 1835, I know I have my number on here. My PowerPoint on my phone is only showing me half of a slide at a time. I can't see the whole PowerPoint, so I can't see. That's so entertaining. Anywho, it's in the PowerPoint, as you will see. My exact numbers. And it was 1835. It's in there. It's just in there. Anywho, 6 years. I think it's 58 million. Don't quote me, I can't see my PowerPoint right now. That part of the PowerPoint won't pop up on my phone. Anyway, he paid it off, literally. You look at what our national debt is today. Imagine a president paying it off in 6 years. And no other president in history has ever done so. I mean, Bill Clinton took a stab at it in the 1990s. He is the only other president that ever got close. And Clinton didn't even really get close, to be quite honest. Let me rephrase. Clinton is the only other president that genuinely took a running stab at it. And did make progress. Didn't get close, but made progress. Jackson paid off every damn cent, y'all, in 6 years' time. Jackson himself was never in debt. He saw debt as a national curse, and it was a foreseeable/preventable problem. You go in debt, if you don't have money, don't spend it. Debt is completely preventable. Jackson, again, you think about all the founding fathers that died in debt. Jefferson, Adams, Monroe, Madison. I'd have to go back and look. I'd be shocked that John Quincy Adams didn't die. It was normal. Not banging on him for a minute. It was normal. Andrew Jackson was very, very well off. And did the exact same thing for our country. By the most reasonable ways of all. Per se. If we didn't have the money, we didn't spend it. And within 6 years' time, this country was nothing but a money-making machine. It was phenomenal. And the fact that he figured it out is sensational. There's more info. I can't see my slides. It's driving me crazy. I just can't see my slides. My the PowerPoint's not popping up on my phone wall. Anywho, so there's a lot more information on how he did it in your PowerPoint. Look it over. Wonderful test questions. A wonderful possible essay question for an exam is, what type of president do you think Jackson was, good or bad? And what he did in terms of financially running this country. International relations were better than they had been since Jefferson's first term. So he truly was, take the Cherokee out. He was really, in his first term, a phenomenal president. So it took him about halfway through his second term. Hashtag he gets reelected. But he's on the way. Long story short, he's on the way at the end of his first term. And he's very much a popular candidate for reelection. But due to things like the Cherokee situation, I can't believe it still looks so light in my apartment. It's starting to get dark outside. This is cracking me up. Anyway, due to the things like the Cherokee situation, he has his haters. He has his opponents. He has those like every president does. But Jackson's really kind of screwed in the knife, deep and deeper and deeper. He does have those that just hate him due to the Cherokee situation and there's other reasons they don't like him. He's very abrasive. You will see, the quiz that you took over, the Understanding Resources quiz that you took, comparing Andrew Jackson to Donald Trump. Donald Trump easily is the president personality-wise, we've ever had that is most like Andrew Jackson. The two are just peas in a freaking pod, right? There's a lot of similarities between how those two men operate. They just don't give a damn what anybody says and what they think about them. They're going to do what they want, when they want, how they want, whether that's good or bad. A lot of times it's good. A lot of times I'm like, hell yeah, I love that stance, good for you. And then they do things like Jackson did with the Cherokee, and it's like, ooh, not so good. But, so he has his opponents. And so there's a brand new political party, long story short, that'll pop up out of hatred for Andrew Jackson. And these are people that come from all walks of life. We're talking, rich, poor, aristocrat, pauper, college athletes, CEOs. I have all sorts of people on here. Do I have it on? Can I see it? That's the question. Nope, I can't see it. That's okay. So people, long story short, from every job, reference, every walk of life, with these people that have nothing in common, really, long story short, except for they all hate Andrew Jackson. That is what brings them all together. It's hilarious. So, they're going to, all these people who, with this basic one huge thing in common, are going to come together and they're going to form a brand new political party with the goal of getting a brand new political party's candidate into office and removing Andrew Jackson from power. This group of anti-Jacksonians, as they are called, / Jackson haters, will call their brand new political party the Whig Party. This is who and how and why the Whigs were founded, people. The Whig Party was founded just out of haters of Andrew Jackson with the goal of dethroning him from power. And you'll never guess who will leave their own political party and join the Whig Party. Not really because he believes in... he's with him. He hates Andrew Jackson too. But he finally sees the best chance for him to get into office. This man, the first ever presidential candidate for the Whig Party, just in fact might be a man by the name of Henry Clay. That's right. Go back to chapter 11, part 1. The corrupt bargain of 1824, when Henry Clay was Speaker of the House, handed John Quincy Adams the presidency. Henry Clay is back. Because after the corrupt bargain of 1824, he didn't have a shot in hell of having any type of substantial position under Andrew Jackson when he gets elected in 1828, right? You really think he's going to make the man who robbed him of the presidency 4 years ago, he's going to name him Secretary of State? No. No, Henry Clay's been around. He has still been a huge member of the House. But now's his shot. Here's the chance he has been waiting for. Stab at the presidency. So he will join the Whig Party with the goal of dethroning Andrew Jackson. But it's just not possible. If you look in the PowerPoint, you will find out, well, there is an issue revolving around the National Bank that the Whigs are hoping will dethrone Andrew Jackson. Again, I want you to look over on your own. I usually have you read over a little bit in your book as well. But let's be creative here for a minute. Do you think a brand new political party who's been around for a minute, and granted, it absolutely makes sense for there to be opposers to every president, but, and I'm just throwing out a ratio, I'd have to look up the kind of more adequate numbers, but let's say it's 75 to 25. 75% of the country are pro-Jacksonians, anti-Jacksonians, 25%. Do you think they've got a shot? No. God bless them for trying. God bless the effort, but when you got 75% of the country on your side, you just, whether you have a good argument, you have a good fight, you have a good campaign, you don't have the numbers. And Jackson, again, if you take the Cherokee situation out, I keep saying that, but that's important to do. It's the only way you can see it, right? He's been a great president, and he's well on the way to paying off the damn national debt. There's not a reason in the world this country, who's 75% behind him, would not re-elect him. In fact, so can a presidential candidate, by the way, can he vote for himself? Can he vote for the year he runs? Of course you can. There are always pictures of the presidential candidate going into the box to cast his vote, right? This is so great. This just cracks me up. So, when the numbers of the popular vote roll in, how many votes did Henry Clay get? 1. Who is the only person who voted for Henry Clay? Henry Clay. Can you imagine when those numbers come in, the embarrassment that had to occur? Holy crap, right? It's just ridiculous. Bless his heart. As in, he had no chance of getting elected. We will never, hopefully, as we know, have a president, Henry Clay. So, Jackson will easily win a second term, continue on in 3/4 of a great second term. We'll try to run for a third, but will not win. He will do something selfishly to protect himself that will easily cost him his third term. And just might cause somebody to try and shoot and kill him on top of that too. But, since, long story short, this is where chapter 11 concludes. Chapter 13, because we're not covering chapter 12 at all. Chapter 12, blah, blah. Chapter 12 is kaput. So, we're moving into chapter 13, and the first 3 or 4 slides you will see in chapter 13 continue to talk about Andrew Jackson, why he didn't get elected to a third term. We're going to go ahead and cover those last few here in this lecture so that we can basically conclude Andrew Jackson all right here, all together. And then chapter 13 is so short that I can pretty much get through tomorrow, Easter, when I do chapter 13. I can get through chapter 13 basically in all of one lecture. I won't need to break it apart like I have everything else. So, anywho, that is the plan. So we're going to spend a few minutes here, finish up on Andrew Jackson. Then we'll conclude chapter 11 when I see you tomorrow, or when I tape this. When I tape this tomorrow on Easter. I'm going to hit chapter 13 all in one-stop shop. I'll get that uploaded, and then Monday morning I will upload your exam, and we will move on from there. Talking out loud just to myself as I'm going through this in my head. But anyway, so with that said, that is the plan. Let's finish up Andrew Jackson. So if you're following along with a PowerPoint, or if you're watching this, go ahead and look at the first few slides of chapter 13. You will see that 3/4 of the way through Jackson's second term, everything has gone great. I mean, halfway into his second term, he has paid off the national debt. We've been making money for over a year. And a long story short, one of the big ways that he did it is he basically took over the spending of this country. He closed down, as president, long story short, he closed down the National Bank. It's like if this country / our government was a teenager whose parents, Andrew Jackson, had given them a credit card, and they had just gone crazy with spending and had maxed out that credit card. Well, the president / parent, Andrew Jackson, closes down the National Bank so that the government cannot do any spending out of it. So one of the ways to pay it off the debt, he goes, we will not spend any money until we have money to spend. I will be overseeing and making all the financial decisions of what we spend money on in this country. And that's a very vague, broad overview, but it gives you an idea. It's like a parent taking a kid who doesn't know who can't control their spending, taking the credit card away. Andrew Jackson had shut down the National Bank. Andrew Jackson was saying you can have your credit card back once we paid off the debt you've incurred and you're willing and ready to spend wisely. That was his mentality in terms of regards to our country. So he's paid off the national debt. For over a year, we've been making money. It's time to reopen the National Bank. Bank is reopened, but Jackson absolutely knows if he continues to control the finances of this country, he'll get reelected. If he gives the credit card back to our government, and our government goes back to being in charge of our spending, right? Well, things could go from bad to worse. He could lose a shot at re-election. If our finances slip, he feels that if he holds on to control of our finances and spending, he's got a deadlock on a third term, being the first president to have a third term. But the National Bank is reopened. Right? He's like, oh crap, well, what do I selfishly do to protect myself? How do I, what can I do to ensure that the government can't put us back in debt and ruin my chances at a third term, which he's convinced is going to happen. Apparently the only person who could keep us out of debt was him, according to him. So what is he going to do? You'll see in those first few slides of chapter 13. Long story short, the government can't, while the National Bank has been reopened, there's no money in the National Bank for the government to spend. Well, that'll protect Andrew Jackson, right? So you can open the doors to a store, but if you walk in and the store is freaking empty and there's something to buy / take / steal, criminal walks out, right? That's his mindset. So he's going to take all of that, the millions upon millions of dollars that are in the National Bank, and he's going to withdraw it. So there's nothing in there for the government to spend, right? It's still the government's money, still the country's money, but he's going to pull it out of the bank so the government can't spend it, can't use it. And he's just going to, for now, distribute it. We have 4 banks, people. This many. 4 banks in this country. Isn't that crazy? And he's going to evenly, quarterly, distribute this country's money into those 4 banks for safekeeping and just keep it there until this election's over. He's been reelected. That way the government can't, there's nothing in the National Bank for the government to use, right? So for selfish protecting himself reasons, he's going to distribute millions of dollars across into these four little national banks, local banks across the country, basically shutting down the activity of the National Bank, and thinking that the 4 banks across the country will just, be quiet about the extra money that they've got and just let it sit there until Jackson tells them otherwise. But with the millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, more than they've ever had before, feeling like freaking Goliath, right? Long story short, with so much money to be had in their possession, in their fingertips, then the little local banks, the 4 banks across the country, get a little overconfident and start loaning money out to anybody who comes in to ask for a loan. Because they've got so much extra, right? They've got so much, overview here. They got millions of dollars more than sitting there they've ever had before. So maybe they can be a little bit more lenient about who they loan out money to, right? Literally anybody who comes into the bank for a loan will get one. Because they just got so much money, they're so overconfident, right? There's just this belief that, there are no credit reports run. There are no background checks done. There are no financial records looked into to make sure that this is a type of person who can pay back a loan if need be. None of that. None of that. You come in, you say, hey, I've got a credit score of 270. I've got 12 credit cards. They're all maxed out. I need another one. Can I have a loan? The bank goes, sure. Do you get the point? So anybody who comes in who wants to ask for a loan gets one, is granted one, right? It's the banks are now like the fountain of youth, they feel. And 98% of the people who they loan out money to will not be the type of people who are responsible and will be able to pay it back. 98% of the people lose their loans and continue to lose. Can't pay their loans back. So after a while, the bank comes after what these people owe. They don't have it. Well, people start to lose the bank starts to take their homes. They lose their jobs. The bank starts to take their possessions and, their homes are foreclosed on. And people will take all this money and just spend it. And next thing you know, millions and trillions of dollars, all this money that we just earned over the last year, poof, gone. Because the banks were not careful about who they lent out money to, and they burned through everything. They lost everything. Bank comes after them for what they owe. Their homes are, they lose their jobs. Their homes are taken. Their homes are foreclosed on. Their possessions are taken. Still not enough to pay off what they were loaned. And you get the point. And we just start to down spiral. Economically, we down spiral. And this man who brilliantly paid off national debt, who put us in position to do nothing but make money for over a year, made a selfish move to protect himself, and it resulted in us almost going into a depression. So, long story short, the country will blame him for this action, and Andrew Jackson will not be the first president to receive a third term. But he will be the first president to escape an open assassination attempt. True story. So we have 45 presidents. I have my coffee cup in one hand. 45 presidents of the United States, right? How many presidents have had an assassination attempt against them? 45. Just saying. 45 presidents out of 40. They all have. Many of them have multiple assassination attempts. But the country and the government's not going to come out and tell you if it's not necessary, right? I mean, what good is that going to do? None. And so, but most assassination attempts to this point were not told to the public and or seen by the public. They were, where does it sound to say, private assassination attempts. So, Andrew Jackson is the first president where he had an openly witnessed assassination attempt against him. Then this man's name was Richard Lawrence. And he is the prime example of what we were just talking about. He was a house painter. He went into the bank to take out a loan, was not good with money. I don't know if he tried to open up his own business or expand his clientele, but he took out a loan, lost it all. Bank came after him. He was not a very good house painter, I guess. Lost his house, the bank took everything. His freaking wife ran away with a neighbor. He backed over his dog. He was a country song, right? But instead of taking responsibility for his own actions, the fact that it was his fault that he lost everything, which, let's be honest, it was. Nope, he absolutely will blame Andrew Jackson. It is Andrew Jackson's fault. The selfish move Andrew Jackson made that put the country in this position. And solely Andrew Jackson's fault that this has happened to Richard Lawrence's life. It's not his fault. It is Jackson's fault. And since Jackson has ruined his life, Lawrence is going to kill him over it. So, the morning of, oh gosh, year. I don't want to say the wrong year. Oh, good grief. I want to say 36. Let me make sure it's correct. Nope, see? It's 35. So January 30th, I had that part right. January 30th, 1835. Sounds better. Richard Lawrence has got his assassination planned, all planned, and he's going to attempt to kill the president. So he goes out in the morning, he takes 2 pistols. He shoots them both, makes sure everything is working according to plan. Both pistols are firing without, any catch. They're working perfectly. And he goes to the White House and he's waiting outside because when Jackson comes out, he's going to leap out and shoot and kill the president. Well, Andrew Jackson comes out with a throng of about 30 people. Comes out in which, Richard Lawrence is like, oop, not the right chance, but he watches to see where they're going. Well, they just come out of the White House, they go up Pennsylvania Avenue to the Capitol, go inside. And if you've ever seen the Capitol, or been around the Capitol, there's lots of landscaping, there's a park, there's lots of places to hide, long story short, and go unnoticed. That is what Richard Lawrence is going to do. He is going to find a hiding spot, he's going to sit and wait for Jackson to leave the Capitol, and then he's going to bust out, he's going to open up fire on him and shoot the president. Well, those guns were working fine that morning. So every historian will attribute the sparing of Andrew Jackson's life, because obviously this will not work. Andrew Jackson was not assassinated. Long story short, historians will credit humidity with saving Andrew Jackson's life. Because even though on a cold, wintry day, it can still be humid, people. As we all know, it can still be incredibly humid even when it's cold. And apparently, this was a very, very overcast, humid day. Maybe snow, maybe blizzard in the air. I don't know, but it was very, very humid. So Richard Lawrence sat in these bushes hiding for hours, by the way. That humidity caused the gunpowder in his pistols to get sticky, to stick together. So hours later, when Andrew Jackson comes out of the Capitol, Richard Lawrence will bust out of the bushes wherever he was hiding. But there's all these pictures of him running up the steps of the Capitol. He pulls out his first gun that worked perfectly that morning, pulls it out, points it straight at the president, point at blank range, pulls the trigger, and nothing is happening. It won't fire, the gun is jammed because the gunpowder has gotten sticky. Well, it's okay. He's brought it back up just in case. So he drops that pistol. He raises it, he pulls out the other one, he points it. Nothing. And now he's got about, 30, 40 people who've come out behind him that have just seen him try and shoot the President of the United States. Holy blank, right? He drops his pistols, he turns to run. Very easily he is caught. The people are quickly on his heels. He's caught, he's, caught in his fight. Long story short, he's hit in the face, basically breaks his nose, and he's hauled off to prison for trying to kill the President of the United States. So Andrew Jackson is not the first person to get a third president to receive a third term, but he is the first president to survive an openly witnessed assassination attempt. Now, what happens to Richard Lawrence? This is probably the best part of the story. Poor Richard Lawrence. So, when he goes to prison, I mean, he sees the prison's doctor. He did get pretty scraped up on this fight when he was caught and he was hauled off to jail. But as he's being treated for his injuries, I mean, he is of sound freaking mind, people. He's telling this doctor he's pouring it out there. He's laying his country song, "Woe Is Me," on the line, etc., etc. He's of sound mind. He's of clarity as to why he did what he did. But when he's sitting in that jail cell, either he does snap, because it sounds like he had gone through a lot of stress, a lot of hard times. So maybe he did snap. Or he was sitting in that jail cell realizing his life is over. How many people had seen him trying to shoot the president? He was going to be found guilty and swing. So maybe he did snap, or maybe he was acting. It is his last straw to save his own life. Next thing you know, Richard Lawrence is no longer Richard Lawrence. Richard Lawrence is now King Henry VIII of England. He starts speaking in his cell in a British accent. He fashions himself a little crown, some historians say, of this paper made from like the napkins and things given to him with his meals. He's skipping around his cell singing, "I'm Henry VIII, I am, Henry VIII, I am. I got married to the widow next door. She's been married 7 times before, except everyone was Henry. We all know the song, right? He's singing that over and over. And next thing you know, I mean, he talks as though he is King Henry VIII of England, and he is out to protect his country against the tyrants trying to invade it and bring it down. And people were like, this dude is insane. He's crazy, right? He doesn't know he tried to kill the president. He thinks he's King Henry VIII, protecting his England from tyrants trying to attack it. The man's insane. So, when he goes to prison, they argue for the first time ever in judicial history, insanity, mental sickness. And Richard Lawrence went on to be the first American ever to be given the insanity plea. Richard Lawrence was the first person to receive the insanity plea, and he was, instead of being hung, he was locked up in a mental institution for the rest of his life. No, maybe he did snap. Again, he had gone through a lot of hard stuff. Or he's sitting in that jail cell going, holy crap, if I don't do something, I'm hanging. I'm swinging, right? I'm almost over. I'm dead. And he was acting. Which we'll never know. Because from the moment, if he was acting, he had to keep up the ruse for the rest of his life. But at least he's alive, right? At least he's getting 3 square meals a day, and no, it's an insane asylum. None of us want to go there. Bless the poor people, the hearts, the poor people who are in there. We don't want to go in there for sound mind. But it's a lot more comfortable life than hanging by your neck from a tree, right? So whether he did go crazy and snap, could be. Whether he was acting, Richard Lawrence was gone down in history as the first person to openly try and assassinate a president, and he's the first person to receive the insanity plea. But Jackson will not receive a 3rd term. His vice president, Martin Van Buren, will. But when I see y'all tomorrow, or when I record tomorrow, we will pick up at chapter 13. And again, it's pretty short. I'm pretty sure I can get through it in a one-stop shop. So, have a lovely weekend, guys. Have a great Easter tomorrow. And I will talk to you soon. Have a good night.